Everybody, welcome to Storm Talk. Weather News meteorologist Brian Good here, filling in for Kevin again tonight, although he will be back tomorrow. Thank goodness, because I won't be. I'll be on vacation. It's my turn. All right, we are tracking fairly quiet overnight, just a lot of muggy air. We had some very heavy rain in our far southern counties near the Kentucky border, producing some flooding early on. But nice and quiet here. Temperatures still quite warm as expected, 83. That urban heat island effect. And we're only going to drop a few more degrees from here, and that's about it. Very warm tonight. All right, so let's talk about what's the setup here. I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of the setup between now and Friday night, and then I'll get into some of the nerdy data. There is a boundary to our south. The same front that came through over the holiday weekend is still down there, but it's going to come back to the north later tonight as a warm front. And as that happens, there is a chance it could generate a brief shower or thunderstorm. Now, here's the HRRR model, which is real sensitive. It detects cumulus clouds, sometimes as showers, but when you start to see some yellows and some reds show up, those are actual downpours that it is picking up on. And it does show when the warm front is sliding through around 4 or 5 a.m. that it tries to generate a brief downpour too. So I do think that's a possibility. I didn't include it wording-wise in the forecast overnight. I likely will for the 11 o'clock news because I'm seeing enough short-range data to indicate that certainly could be the case. It does, the HRRR model doesn't go very far out, but it does go far enough out to see what is waiting for us as we approach midday tomorrow. Period of thunderstorms, same part of the system that's up there in the Twin Cities now. Some of the energy will work its way in here tomorrow. Here is the RPM model showing the warm front moving in. It too generates a few little specks in the morning with that warm front passage. So again, brief downpour. That's what I'm talking about here. Now, toward midday, early afternoon, thunderstorms roll through the area. It's a little different look to it on the RPM, almost like a little MCV, or we call a little MCS type feature showing up in western Kentucky. We'll fine-tune those details once we get into the overnight and early tomorrow. But the timing's pretty much the same. Midday, just after lunch, thunderstorms will roll through. And notice what happens. We warm up quickly in the mid to a few upper 80s, mainly mid-80s, by the time period this activity arrives. As it passes through, we get some rain-cooled air in behind that. Now, here's the question. Are we going to be able to recover from that? Because we're falling into the 70s here in the stratiform rain part of this as it passes by. Look what happens across Bedford and Seymour. You guys improved rapidly back to the mid-80s. RPM takes this back to 91. So 80s to 70s to around 90 by the time we head into the late afternoon. And that's a big deal because if we, it's a conditional threat is what we call this as we head into the evening. If we do not recover, then the second part here I'm about to show you is not really going to be much of a reality. But the potential is there for us to recover, and if we do, there will be a much more organized belt of wind and thunderstorms aiming toward Paducah for some showers and thunderstorms, and that could very well create some outflows that could work their way into our area during the evening period or perhaps even overnight. And if we have enough instability around at that time, yes, the wind shear aloft is not fantastic for us, but these act as mini cold fronts. So you get automatic forcing that comes to the area and can automatically create some strong downburst winds as a result of that. So that's something to monitor later on for Wednesday night, and we will do that. As we into Thursday, overall, most of the model data is fairly quiet during the day Thursday. Only a few pop-up thunderstorms at Thursday night may be a slightly different story, and I'll show you that in a second. Here's one of the things I'm watching for Wednesday night. This is what I'm talking about, where the thunderstorms drop down into Missouri. Stronger belt of wind there, as you'll see in a second. And it creates an outflow effect of thunderstorms. And how far they go it's a limit to it. It can't go very far before it runs out of steam and they just fall apart. That's why I think 65 is probably a good dividing line on that potential for now. Right at the moment, Storm Prediction Center has this a marginal risk locally, mainly for the afternoon activity, and then the slight risk for the more organized stuff for Wednesday night. I can see why they have arced it that way and ended it very close to 65 because of the outflow potential. But again, once we know how the afternoon will play out, we'll have an idea of whether or not it needs to be drawn a little more like in this shape. So stay tuned for adjustments on that end. We have the thunderstorm potential Thursday. I'll go into a little more detail on that in a second. And then Friday, the actual front, a stronger front, will begin to move into the area. This is more of a moisture boundary than it is a temperature front. But it is going to scoop up a lot of moisture, a lot of heating ahead of this front. And the stage is set for some thunderstorms. In fact, we are already outlooked for Friday night for a severe risk. And usually when we see that this far out, it could be some pretty robust storms, and some of the data here will show that too. So let's backtrack. So if you got the general idea and you're okay with that, you can stop watching the video now. If you want to see the nerdy stuff now and see some of the model data, keep watching. Here's the NAM model. Mainly the NAM is one I'm going to use for now. The NAM high res has not done the greatest, but no model really does great in these scenarios, but at least gives you an idea of something to work with here. Here is the wind energy tomorrow afternoon. Again, there's a little pocket there in Indiana that drops down out of the Twin Cities, likely to try to help spark some activity, but we do have some pretty good instability. So while I do think we could have a warning or two tomorrow midday for that lunch period, early afternoon stuff, I don't see it being widespread because we don't have a lot of wind energy to keep these maintaining themselves where you have a warning for county after county after county after county, and several warnings. I don't see that, but there could be a few of them that could pulse up, especially with the downdraft cape ability to produce some downburst will begin to elevate by this point in the day, so we could get some warnings for that, so I wouldn't rule it out. Then as we get into Wednesday night, this is the evening overnight stuff. This is energy that will drop down into our west, and it's picking up on some of the outflow potential here that branches out of the system, and that's why this was as a challenge to figure out for later on tomorrow night, especially when we have something ahead of it. It gets messy because we know how this works. If the first system doesn't work out right, then the second part of that a few hours later is not going to be what's the models are showing either. It's a cause and effect deal, so kind of iffy there. But there is some CAPE still to work with, even during the overnight period, late evening, and there's very little SIN or a cap. So there still could be some good, decent winds out of this, and the storms will likely be, they'll begin to elevate, but I don't think it's going to be elevated enough to prevent some strong damaging winds potentially in the area. So that's tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. Let's skip ahead now to Thursday. Thursday's wind potential in the afternoon, it's okay. It's meager. That's generally about 20 to 25 knots. Not the greatest for organized severe. However, CAPE is elevated, so more of a pulse-type thunderstorm activity, slow movers for Thursday. What is interesting, though, is Wednesday night, toward the overnight period, the low-level jet kicks in. Good wind. There's not a lot of instability at this time of the night for Thursday night. There's a good amount of wind energy, and low-level jet, we'll have to watch for thunderstorms to develop and produce some very heavy rain in some areas for Thursday night. I'm not having it played up in the forecast much yet because we're only at Tuesday. But just giving you guys a heads up that that's something we'll have to watch Thursday night for the low-level jet. So there's that. Now let's go to Friday. Friday afternoon, these pockets where you see the little pink area, that's getting closer to 35 to 40 knots. Getting up there. This time of year, 40 knots is usually my magic number for wind fields a couple miles up from the atmosphere or from the ground. But when we get into this time of the year, the doldrums of summer, to get that type of wind energy in our area is rare. And so when you have to consider is 30 knots really is a good benchmark, 35 even, for this area for severe weather because you have such strong heating, so much daylight, and a lot of humidity that is at play as well. The capes become tremendous, very unstable, in fact, ahead of this. So you got very unstable air. You do have some wind energy, decent amount, not excessive, but decent. We need to watch that. And the EHI is elevated. This is the ability to produce some isolated tornadoes is showing up as well in some of the data. So there is potential that this 50% slight risk that's already out for Friday could very well be upgraded another level to enhanced once we get a little closer. It all depends on these values still hold on the data when we get to that point. But early look at it, that's the way it's looking. By the way, if this front moves through, and it looks like it will, here's the front, by the way. By the time we get into Saturday, it won't exactly be a dramatically cooler weekend, but it will knock the humidity down a few notches to where it'll still feel humid, but nothing oppressive like we're going to feel the next few days. So some good news there for the weekend. And for the Sparta area for the Quaker State 400. All right, guys, that's it for now. A lot of things to watch here. It's a messy setup. There's a lot of moving parts here, a lot of conditional stuff on this and that, and it's not a clear-cut forecast, but at least we have some time periods to watch out for, one being tomorrow morning for a brief downpour with a warm front, tomorrow afternoon at lunch to early afternoon for some pulse thunderstorms. Then we got tomorrow evening to see if we get some outflow thunderstorms. Pulse thunderstorms Thursday afternoon, maybe some nocturnal low-level jet heavy rain event maybe Thursday night to watch for. Then we got the main front Friday afternoon with strong instability and some damaging thunderstorms rolling through the area. So it is going to be busy for Kevin Harnett in the game. I'll be thinking of them and you all on vacation. I'll be watching things, don't worry. See you guys in about 45 minutes.